but it'll be difficult. We're finally got the game, guys. Finally in it for our last series of the day here on Romanicide. In the bottom right, as the blue Terran for Kaizi Gaming, he is Time.
Taking on the red Zerg in the top left-hand side of Romanicide. It is from NC Sports. It's Serral.
Serral just kind of proving that he is absolutely dominating in this matchup. Otherwise, he's feeling safe and pretty up in the top 2, which, you know, is a little less than he would have wanted. I think most people looked at the group and was like, yeah, Serral, definitely still a good chance that he tops his group just like he has in plenty of Katowices before. At this time, though, Dark's the one that actually advanced right into that round of 8.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a little bit of a, you know, uncomfortable territory, I suppose, for Serral, right? Not getting on top of his group, having to fight a little bit harder. It's, yeah, it's like I say, it's not really where Serral expects to be a lot of the time. So, it definitely, kind of interested to see if he can pull it back later in the event. Obviously, we're guaranteed to see him a little bit further down the line. Obviously, looking into this match right now, just very quickly to gloss over what's happening. Not a lot. Hatch gas pool and racks open as EG. Looks pretty standard here for the moment. So yeah, no, I like what you say. It's definitely kind of Serral, not kind of the day he wanted to have so far.
It just must be frustrating for a guy like Serral to lose again to someone. As he was saying in his interview, it was kind of like, oh, the TSL 6 thing, yeah, it happens. And that's a good way to look at it at the time. And then now he loses again. So it feels like he's once again the Serral who's trying to prove something, even though he's proven it over and over and over for years. To him, proving that he's actually still number 1 is what he wants to do. For Time, wants to prove that he actually can take down these amazing Zergs and advance through into the later stages of tournaments, because that's kind of what's missing on his resume, is that he absolutely dominates the Chinese region. That's how he got here. It's he's definitely the best, but then can fall a little bit short in representing China in these big tournaments. So it's a little bit of a story for both players, but Time is the one who needs to also be, occasionally, he needs to depend on other people to do certain things as well. He needs to depend on other people to lose, basically. But forcing Serral to lose would be the best chance he's got. He actually gets a creep tumor right off the bat, and then will lose his Reaper, I'm pretty sure. He will.
He shouldn't he? It's gonna go for a run around the back. He drops a grenade down. It stopped running. It's gonna regenerate, but there's another queen. No. Wow.
Ooh, and that second queen, out of place entirely, is running back now to throw the night creep tumor. She didn't miss too many seconds, but she was supposed to be there to actually get the kill. Finally, she gets it. That's what she deserved. Ooh, we got a ghost build. I heard Time did this previously. I'm excited that we get to see it here on the mainstream.
Yeah, the ghost build is something you see sprinkled in on a very rare occasion, right? And it's one of those builds which actually kind of makes more sense than you originally think. You can snipe a couple units down, and it can really power up like a Hellbat attack or so, because all of a sudden there aren't any queens, or you can drop an EMP. There's a couple options. The problem is Serral, he takes this pneumatized carapace approach. He's going to have overload speed. He's going to get in for the scout. He's going to have perfect info on the fact that Time is going for ghosts, and he can set up accordingly.
And what's awesome about this, too, is that even if it was something like totally normal, 3CC, of course, he could just macro better, harder if that was the case. It's also been very helpful for his baneling drops, as Pig was pointing out, how he can interrupt a Terran's flow so darn well. In this case, it actually does see something very funky. It is a ghost that can snipe the queens, do kind of okay against lings in certain scenarios, but obviously that's where the Hellions really kick in, and the ghosts are just something that you expect your queens to live for an extended period of time, basically, and the snipe taking them out as fast as it does can be somewhat of a shock for these Zergs who over-depend on their queen defense. So Serral knows about it, already in position to push it away. The snipe will go down and get the kill.
Yeah, that's nice. It's actually not that committed build either, right? Just because it is 3CC so early. I was talking about like a Hellbat variation, but with 3CCs, you're not going to see anything that aggressive. And yeah, this is nice. You get a couple queens. If you can get that goes back home alive, brilliant. Is that likely to happen? Probably not. Serral is on the hunt. He knows this is out here, and he's looking for the surround on just the ghost. He's going to get it. And, oh, well, he didn't really have to lose those last couple lings, but cleans up and gets the ghost, and that's all he's really looking for with those limbs.
It's important to point out that this isn't as dedicated as maybe it could be. I know TY has had some two-base Hellbat ghost builds in the past. If that gets obliterated, that's really troublesome. But although the Ghost Academy is kind of expensive, and the ghosts themselves, well, have been cheapened / changed in their resource requirements over the 10 years of StarCraft, aren't exactly inexpensive either. It's something that you can continue using. You can actually use their hand lanes like you usually would, patrolling the creep, running away from lings if they get us around, and then just have a ghost or two in there to also get some snipes. So it adds a little bit more complexity to the early game for the Terran. At times, still has to have some pretty good macro behind this. He's got a medevac here on the front lines, which is funny. I saw one medevac produced and was like, oh, maybe he misclicked, maybe he meant to get two, but I just wanted one to bring on the front lines.
Yeah, just a little bit of, I guess ghost evacuation perhaps. Obviously a little bit of healing here and there as well in it. Yeah, kind of an odd combination, but he's just going to leave the medevac and the ghost on the map to try and get some more done. EMPs are queens, hey, takes away some creep teamers, potential transfusions in the future. I don't hate it. What I hate more is that these Hellions are just about to get caught. The Lings, they didn't quite get the wraparound they wanted. They still do pretty darn well. There's not that many Marines back here. If those Hellions had gone down more easily, Serral could have continued through for so much damage.
Yes, that could have been really problematic for time. But now that it didn't do that, to evaluate the Zerg side of things for a second here, that drone supply is really not impressive. That was a lot of links to have sharking around offensively when we know that most Zerg players want to have the bare minimum just to defend things with the support of their queen while droning really hard. So the droning has now come in. Now Serral is moving onwards to the 70s and probably up into the 80s as we go. But it's taken a while, because time did start off with the third CC build. That was a lot of lings to use and not get really a whole lot done with them. And now Time's follow-up push is ready to go. Combat shields on the way, 1-1 almost done. Still has a ghost in there for maybe a sniper or an EMP. It's actually not got a lot of splash, so I'm not certain that Time can do a whole lot with this, but he's looking for some damage. There's one tank.
Serral's already poised to either come back from the bottom side and surround this or to just counterattack, right? And I like both options. He's going to choose to surround this a little bit. And yep, you mentioned only one tank. It's not a lot of splash. Marine's actually going to get hit by Banes. That's a nice, easy cleanup. Okay, you go to drop into the natural. That's more a threat than anything else. It's not actually going to deliver much damage, right? Gets the first few drones out on the extractor, but that should be about it. Nice target fire for a moment or two on the Bane lanes. Otherwise, Serral handles that well. And now he's got the Queens in position to get a medevac kill. And that's what's so dangerous about making these plays against Serral. He'll find ways to take advantage of you trying to take advantage.
Right, yes. Yeah, the Queen's perfectly placed to deny one medevac. Don't deny the other two, which do force... Was that a cancel? I think it was a kill.
Kill, I think?
Yeah, I think it was a kill on the 5th base. So not too shabby at the end of the day. Good focus fire once again. Time showing off his skills, even cross servers, is quite nice to see. As I was going to say, I was a little... disappointed for Time, as that was maybe an opportunity to do some damage with that tank being in that position. Maybe if he was able to concave a little bit better, a little bit faster, he could have done some more damage. But then he's able to evacuate with 2 medevacs and bop a 5th base. So, all right, the game continues on. Serral's not going to have any, death blow here anytime soon, as he is moving on to his own hive, and Time should be able to get this planetary up with the help of the rocks to defend, give him some nice chokes to work with, and Time, he's definitely been in these situations before where he's even fallen more behind, and is able just to stick through it to the very, very late game. He is, I'm not going to say comfortable in a super late game at TVZ, but he is capable of doing it.
He is, as we see these few Marines around the top side are going to do some fancy stuff again. That might have been a few too many Balins to target fire down, whether you're good at target firing or not. There's a limit to the Marine DPS, believe it or not. Serral again, poisoned this bottom side, right to go for that counterattack in. I love the Sensor Tower because Serral is going to make moves like this. And this just gives you that little bit of heads up. Makes it a little bit easier to prepare, get units moving there already, and just makes this way less effective. So I like that. And it's also positioned in such a way that we mentioned Baneling shops earlier, right? It can also kind of watch for those toward the main. So I like everything about that Sensor Tower. The Bane's going to go for this anyway, and I feel like that is not really worthwhile for Serral. It's a lot of Banes for not a lot gained.
Yeah, one does hit Time, but, or a couple rather, but not enough to really make that worth it. Supply depots are pretty quickly replaced too. They are a part of his supply Like they're not extra, so he kind of needs them as well. And a fifth base is already being built, as you believe that Time is thinking long term in this Romanticide game. He's pushing to the top right, where there's not a whole lot of creep spread, but tanks on the front lines, not necessarily defended, sieging a little bit late as Serral actually just pulled the trigger. Might have been a little overeager himself, as there were a ton of Marines behind those tanks. Will lose the creep spread, will lose positioning over onto their right, but now has the high ground, is going to collect himself again, build more banelings, but the tanks are actually pushing super aggressively.
Yeah, just going to keep on going forward here. The Banes target fire down again, and Serral is looking as though he maybe doesn't quite have the numbers he needs at the moment. A Queen going down too, and his third base in some serious trouble right now. Drones are dropping. Serral's got nothing on the other side of the map dealing any kind of damage, so he needs to turn this around and turn it around soon, but he's losing a lot right here.
He's losing so much, and the fact that he kind of took these engagements thinking I can go ahead and clean this up and was just shy of it, twice now, that's when it really gets scary for this Zerg player, because they're like, I can deal with this. Oh, wait, no, I can't. Okay, I have enough of Banelings to have that backup. They always have a backup set of Banelings. But after the second time goes a bit poorly for them, too, sometimes they don't have those backup Banelings. Now, Serral did have enough. He seemed to have went ahead and had a force over to the left, looking for drops, probably. But that was one of the scary moments for Serral. It's still kind of scary. Time is up, 20 supply. He's working on his 3-3. A couple of tanks do get found out as Serral jumps on top of the reinforcements. But even without the reinforcements, it's still kind of an okay army there from Time. A couple of weak tanks, sure, but 4 of them in total. Marauders on the front lines as well. And Serral, perhaps deciding that safety is best here, is going to pull his drones away from the third base and try and initiate a bit of a run by on top of the fifth. Easy lift right there. No need to worry about it for Time, as he focuses completely on the attack.
Yep, the attack is where it all matters, right? You just get rid of that fifth base for now, whatever. It doesn't matter because you're denying Serral's third. And, I mean, where's Serral meant to go to? Bottom left, no creep spread in front of that base. So that's an easy target for later down the line for Time. Do you see Serral? A couple of Vipers will land the first Blind Cloud, take the first 2 tanks out of the equation. Use the links from the right side to come in. There's a few Banes there as well. The last 2 tanks are so low. You're so close to just removing all of this kind of splash damage. You're not there yet, and the scan is perfect to catch the burrowed Bane attempt from Serral in the top right as well. So, well played by Time, really paying attention everywhere, dealing with this attack well, and he's just continuing forward. Serral has completely lost control of this game.
He absolutely has. If he loses control of that base, the base itself, mining, it maybe isn't that important, as he has a base to the bottom left, but that is more positioning that Time will grant himself. Moving into the natural is awfully scary, and it's the upgrades as well, which are starting to go down here. It looks like +1 will be saved, at least temporarily. It's got 10 more seconds to go. Time targets it down, however, denied. No upgrades for these Hydras, as Time himself moves ever closer to having 3-3.
Yeah, those upgrades are going to be massive. Serral is going to try and claw his way to Lurkers, right? If you can get Lurkers, maybe you can slow the game down enough to make some plays and get back into it, but I'm not sure if he gets enough Lurkers up. He's struggling for minerals. His economy is not being where he wants it to be. He's been running drones around everywhere, and Time says, cool, right, I've won this fight on the top side. I've done everything there is to do here. Let's go for a different avenue of attack. And I really believe that bottom left base is very vulnerable if that's where he wants to go. But now it isn't. He's just going to go through the center. He's going to try and force a fight to end this game as bio units start running in, and here comes the Zerg.
I don't know if that was really that good of an idea from Time. Entirely on creep with his tanks forced to siege, all clumped up together, and Serral takes advantage. The Banelings finding those connections, the Vipers getting those blinding clouds. That was actually a kind of big mistake from Time. I don't think it's a game-ending one. I don't think he's thrown the game here, but he certainly has lost all that momentum he was gaining by attacking into Serral's third base, and now is kind of forced to reevaluate how he wants to take this game, how the pacing of it's going to look like. He's on 5 bases. He's moving on to 6. Of course, he has a Ghost Academy. That's a second Ghost Academy, isn't it?
Yeah, because he had one earlier, right? We opened with...
Yeah, there you go. And moving on to deal with Lurkers. But yeah, the momentum being lost there does really suck, and he doesn't have any drops quite yet set up, which means that Serral has been mining happily off the left side of this map.
Yeah, Serral's bottom left base, I feel like that should have been a target, right, with, drops or something, because that's Serral's lifeline once you're denying that top side. So to me, it feels like the obvious place to go to is Time. You should be down there, stopping that from getting up. All he's trying to put some pressure on it, and like you said, he went too far forward on creep there in the center. I think I would have preferred to see him going the other way, and it's just that time now where it gave Serral the momentum he needed to get up into Lurkers. So now you have to fight Lurkers this time, and he's not really there to fight it, right? Because he was so just bio-focused, and now you're scrambling towards Ghosts, etc. Now units are just running around everywhere, and he's actually going to stint into this, but through the choke point, I don't like anything about it, CG.
Yeah, this is really dangerous. He sees the concave potential, but that's still a choke there with the rocks. Lings coming from the right side as well. Jump on top of the remaining bioforces. 3 lurkers are left over, and that seems like it'll be enough. The ghosts forced to come forward to get their snipes. Definitely won't be able to use your bio after that loss. Time at the end of the day, only down 20 supply though. I mean, that was really awkward. You know, he did have the potential concave, sure, but it was just a really awkward way to get there. And I did underestimate that Serral had as many Lings coming to reinforce as he did. But this is where Time, if Time can actually entirely shift into the late game gear, this has been where he's shown a lot of stubbornness, frankly, against the best Zergs, such as Dark, and done very well against them. So there's been a couple of flubs here in the mid game, not quite. Oh, okay, and maybe this is one of the reasons. But yeah, a couple of flubs here and there. It's never actually been a case where Time has thrown the game completely, and certainly if he can get this other expansion up, he'll still be good to go. But I think Serral can now stop sweating as much, because I think he was around that third base.
It's kind of amazing, right? Serral takes that bottom left corner for kind of like oh my god, I need something to replace the third, right? And then, you know, because he kind of recovers, now he's got bottom left and he re-expands to the top. So suddenly Serral's on every single base he's meant to have, bar that forward one with the rich Vespine. He just really has so much control. The creep is still out there looking fantastic, and he can go from multiple different angles. One thing I didn't like for Serral earlier was some of the run-bys weren't effective. The one that came down this third base was horrible. It really achieved nothing for a lot of units. But now it's so much better because Time is so much more spread out. The potential for Serral to do damage here is huge, and he's already jumping on a couple of ghosts, reinforcements, depots, tower, everything that's going to just cost money to rebuild and just be very annoying for Time.
And Time has maybe spread himself a little too thin, once again getting bombarded by Banelings and Blinding Clouds up to the top right, trying to defend that would-be expansion. If he can collect the rest of his army, the one that defended the run-by, then maybe he can push this back and still have that base turn into a planetary, and that looks to be the case. But it's really changed, hasn't it? You know, 5 minutes ago we were talking about Time taking engagement after engagement. Now it is Serral taking the engagements while also having a very powerful economy behind this. 90 drones, however many 6, 7, 8 bases, and even adding on a Spire here. One thing that Serral has learned from previous late game ZVTs is that Broodlords can actually be an effective tech swap. Even getting a second Spire, I hope he didn't cancel his first one, getting a second Spire for some more upgrades. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, late game setup here is just beautiful for Serral, and Time is, you can just see the struggle to get the top right base. You know, again, every time he tries to get it, Serral's now striking the bottom side. There's not even a depot wall on the bottom side anymore, right? And that's just a wide open space. The problem is, if you lose that base, which might be mining out, it gives Serral access to run by into the natural, then the main base. And that's where your production is. You can't lose that position, so this is just going to become more and more of a problem as time goes by. And this time, it's actually just a huge army from Serral that comes this way. The lurkers as well. If he gets on top of this ramp, he can just cut off everything and slowly make his way into the main with more units. And there's only really lurkers left, so they're not going to advance very quickly. But for now, they will get the job done.
Yeah, this is where you'd want some Liberators coming through, but I don't see any on the production tab. I guess he doesn't have any to begin with. Time is... I mean, he's going to be able to deal with it eventually, but this is taking so long to clean up. It is doing damage, of course, as well. That there's not much else that Time can say is going his way. You know, at least he has bases mining, sure, but his production is borderline camped. Ghost trying to come forward for the snipes. Only one went off is what it sounded like. A nuke comes down as it finally finished to finally dislodge these lurkers, and that is an answer to them, although just not a very convincing one. You know, usually these nukes are exactly for this purpose, get out of the way, and then they say, okay, and then they come back later. There's nothing really stopping Serral from doing that.
Oh, some EMPs on, well, a couple of queens. I guess as Ghost got abducted in, they just made the most of what they had, right? So, yeah, there's not really much else to say about this fight up here. Serral just feels as though, that's the thing, right? Even if Time's like holding on, still has a bit of army, I feel so hopeless for him because I look at the bank of Serral, right? Look at the bases of Serral, and okay, Time's standing at the top right. He's just not traded efficiently enough just yet to make the difference, and he considered Time at some point in this game is going to have to take the bottom side of the map as well. I mean, that seems like a far future. These Liberators showing up, they definitely help, and they are going to push this back, and for a moment, Time will look good. I love that Serral's going into Broodlords, by the way. We've seen Serral multiple times in ZVT on this map. I think against Bjorn was one of the famous examples where he just didn't have a finishing move against the Terran. And the Broodlords really are just the finishing move at certain points against certain compositions. So I like that he's moving into that, giving himself that option should the situation arise.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He has learned his lesson about that. It can be a very useful tool, a very good way to execute someone who is thinking entirely about a ground-based army and hasn't even thought about the potential of an air one. Time is still trying to find positioning in the middle of the map. He did take out 2 bases with the attack to the top left, but this is where he made the mistake 10 minutes ago. He moved to the middle of the map where there's so much creep spread, such a big opportunity for us around. It's not really a place where Terrans want to do this anymore. I'm kind of surprised that Time is moving forward. Hopefully he's just taking a stand, I guess, drawing a line in the sand, and maybe we'll see him move towards the bottom left, which he needs to do because Serral continues to expand, and that's his base. Yeah. He's going to need that.
That's what I mean. At some point in time, needs to take that base, so if he doesn't pay attention, it's all well and good being like, oh yeah, I'll focus top right now, and when that mine's up, then I'll go to the bottom side. Sometimes you can trade efficiently enough to make that work. That doesn't count if Serral then actually just mines that base, right? And I'll admit, Serral's fights are not pretty right now. This fight ain't pretty. But it's getting the job done. You know, Time is continuing to lose units. He's continuing to lose position. This is a base that's lifted that still has some minerals to mine. And again, none of this lets Time come through and properly deny the bottom side. He's still stuck in the top right as well. Lurker's holding this position. Nice attempt for Ghost, as Serral didn't have the detection far enough forward. But overall, it's still Time. Always 160, 170 supply, just about hanging on, as Serral is always maxed out.
There's certainly something to be said about having your entire army on the front lines, but I am absolutely missing just 1 or 2 drops. I think that would actually do so well to try and bring back some momentum and just make it so that Serral actually has to pick and choose what he pays attention to. Because right now, Serral's making really, feels like all the decisions, not exactly 100% correctly all the time, but he's the one that's in control. 8 more Lurkers are on the way, more upgrades here. Greater Spire is finished, so we could see a transition when Serral feels that it's time. But he actually can't do it as swiftly as maybe you would hope as a Zerg player. He actually dipped down below 1,000 minerals in the bank, so some of these trades lately not going so well for him. He's going to move up right through the middle and right towards that 4th base planetary. Time trying to respond as quick as possible is going to get a concave because of it. He just needs to bring that splash. Burrowed Banelings, I believe, have been seen. They're still scanned, absolutely not going to work out. And Time, again, holds defensively. These Serral attacks on Time's side of the base have not really been working too well.
I like that little Zergling unburrow on top of the tank. You know, you mentioned drops, and I feel like drops, not just now, but earlier in the game, could have been a game changer as well. But moving on from that, yeah, these attacks, they're starting to be a little bit too much from Serral, right? You know, I feel like he's given up a little bit too much. It's not just Ling Bane, it's Lurkers going down as well. And these are losses which Serral could afford before. Now it's a little bit more difficult because he isn't mining off the 12 o'clock base, right? The top side Rich Vespine base isn't looking like it's going to get up. Time has made good progress on the top right side. While he wasn't making much movement there before, he was just kind of stuck defending his own base. Now he's actually denying bases of Serral, and that's a big difference from where he was at a few moments ago. That can be the game changer, especially if Serral continues to trade not so well, but this trade much better for Serral. Beautiful blinding clouds, the abducts were perfect, just what he needed, and this is a big clean out on the bottom side, and that's the sort of efficiency Serral needed for once, because Time was just starting to claw his way back into it.
Yeah, that was much better that time around. I think Serral had been kind of sizing up the army composition that was defending. It was like, okay, this time I'll bring some Vipers, this time I'll bring this many Hydras as well, and it worked out beautifully. Time thought maybe the concave of Bio would work out well enough, but certainly wasn't the case. That 3rd base has been a sore spot for him, but perhaps you think, well, let's give it up. You know, that 3rd base isn't important anymore. He loses the 3rd base, he might lose access to his own natural and get his production camp, so he can't really stop defending that base. But he also has to defend these bases. That's where he actually still has mining left over. And Time needs to replace about 60 supply before he's maxed out again, but I'm afraid it's not going to happen. He may have just gotten to cancel another hatchery, but there's that production I was talking about potentially being camped. Time has so few units here defending this. I don't think he's going to stop this Zerg reinforcement.
Yeah, I don't know what you do about this, right? This was the move that Serral made earlier that I thought was going to be really good, and he just didn't quite have enough follow-up on it. But here, now it's looking great again. He did just lose a bunch of his Vipers, which he did great so far to avoid being EMP'd. Not sure it really makes a difference. Might just make the breakout a little bit easier here for Time. I mean, maybe not. I mean, these Liberators go down. The Lurkers are still going to control this ramp. I mean, Serral's just up in the main base, right? He's going to start actually killing production now. So Time has to make a move. He's forced into this fight, which, well, he's going to start with the Ghost on the top side, ZG, as he's also being attacked in the main. There's just no winning in any single position.
No, not winning any front right now. And most Terrans, when they tap out, they're going to tap out when that production is camped, which has entirely been nothing much left over for time to even utilize the minerals he's mining to the top, right? He's got a couple of drops, desperately looking for some damage. You're going to find a completely defenseless base, but that is one base that Serral can go ahead and give up without really being too sad about it, because his army is still so much bigger than Time's. Doubling the army supply, doesn't have to worry about that. I think Time is just looking for, like, you know, the morale boosters here.
This double drop is like 10 plus minutes too late, maybe even 15. Like, honestly, the difference drops would have made at some earlier point of this game, even a few minutes ago, like you said, to help turn the tide. Instead, he really did just let Serral kind of, you know, create the game, you know, play the game the way he wanted to. Yeah, it was great when Time was pushing the top side, but Serral, you know, yeah, okay, he had to give him a base. Then he just took the bottom left, right? And that was the issue. Where was Time's next play? Well, there wasn't really one. It's a huge map to rotate on. You need your jobs to be giving you that head start on the rotation, and that was just never there. Yeah, I mean, he's trying to rebuild production. He's made a natural completely ransacked. I mean, Serral is going to get his Overseer snipes, so might struggle to fight against these ghosts, which are cloaked up, and that's going to be a lot of dead lurkers until the Overseer shows up again, and then it's a lot of dead ghosts.
Yeah, just need that Overseer, and the Ghosts can't really do it all by themselves. Time might be thinking this map is closer than it is, because he's been able to deny 2 bases pretty consistently, and then denied that third one to the bottom side. But we can see the numbers. We know it's not just these 6 lurkers, you know, and the Ghost snipes might come in big if he can get that Overseer. It is more than that, and more behind it as well. Serral might not be mining the best right now, but he's still mining. Very technically long distance mining right now. And Time, yeah, he's just hoping the income's actually not there. It's not great, but it's there, and the army, more importantly, is there. Now he sees the full might of it. Lane Bainley coming forward with those Vipers, pulls back whatever Marines he has left. A quick little snipe on those tank numbers, and even SCVs starting to go down. SCVs that have no place to go.
You know, I feel like the struggle for Serral to max out right now really shows that Time was, you know, doing things the right way. You know, he's very close to maybe turning this around. If this attack doesn't get on top of that production, if he's able to deny that little bit better, maybe he really is still in this beautiful pickup on the Ghosts to try and save whatever they can. First abduct doesn't work, second abduct will try again, and the Ghosts and the medevac finally do go down. And it does feel as though we are moments away from a Serral victory, because Time, as Lurk is advancing on his position, I think you can see it in his face, right? He knows he's given this one up. He had a lot of advantages here, he had chances. But Serral got himself back into the game, and that's what Serral does. Even when you're ahead against Serral, it's never a guarantee.
Serral has been very good about that. Not usually having to use this clutch factor against Time. You know, usually he's using it in a best-of-7 finals against Raynor or something like that, but having to use it there a little bit. I guess Time's aggressiveness on that third base was just a bit too much of a surprise, and if he had been able to utilize that momentum a bit better, maybe he brings it to a victory 2, 3, 4 minutes later. But that's part of Time making a mistake, thinking too much of his army, perhaps, in his position to move to the middle was a very bold choice. And perhaps even we can blame the map a little bit. You know, Romanticide is a map where if you're to the right, if you need to get to the left all of a sudden, it's going to take a long time through some dangerous terrain as well. If maybe it was a more, you know, direct map, vertical map, like a Jagannath or something, maybe you can beep up a little bit quicker. Maybe that drop does happen. Something along those lines, right? But Time lost momentum in the mid-game. Unfortunately, loses game 1 against Serral. Serral, you know, he did struggle. This is what we've been talking about. Time can bring his best to the Zergs and get so close and then not quite make it.
Yeah, you know, I actually really agree with you on the map, because it was that moment where he takes down the top side base. That we talk about this a lot, because this was the moment of the game where Time probably looked the best. And he just went through the middle of the map, and it's almost like he didn't believe he had time to come to the bottom side instead. So all of a sudden, you're just playing a completely different game. You're just trying to bum rush the middle, when in fact the bottom left's where you need to be. And I know we've said it 1,000 times at this point, but drops, what if you already had 2 medevacs in the bottom left? What if that already gives them the time? Maybe not even to go bottom left with the main army, but what if that lets the main army in the center actually get in position without it becoming an overextension, right? There's just those few little things that Time maybe could have done a little bit differently. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to. We actually set up on Lightshade for map 2 Zombie Probe, and I was thinking about Romanticide. It's been kind of this kind of weird map. I'm not sure Romanticide's the map you want to start on against Serral, but this seems like it was Time's pick. So now it's kind of his map gone. We go into Serral's map Lightshade, most likely. Things don't necessarily get better for a Terran player here.
Yeah, that's a bit tricky. I mean, I'm not going to say that the map is really the determining factor, although it sometimes does lead it one way or another in terms of the balance. It just Time should be coming in here with a choice of his own because, of course, he didn't veto Lightshade. If this had suddenly become a map where he would have loved to veto it, then we're talking something complicated. But I'm sure he's got a plan. Lightshade, one of the shorter maps alongside Submarine, can really either encourage momentum to continue or suddenly momentum just entirely flips on its head. If it was Lightshade for the last map, I think Time actually does continue with his momentum and win the game. But unfortunately, it was not. So what will Lightshade bring? Sometimes Serral, after winning a game like that, just want to go ahead and get be done with it. Goes for an aggressive build, as he can definitely do so. We're gonna have to wait and see, as we're still getting into the game here.
Yep, Time's just taking a moment to BRB. I'm with you. I think Lightshade's it's not as difficult to rotate on as Romanticide, right? So maybe if you do get in that kind of position again. And there are positions you can use, that ledge that goes above the kind of the low ground fourth we sometimes see. That's a really good position. That's really popular with Terran players. So maybe we see something like that. Of course, Time could bring a completely different style. I know he went for this ghost build. It wasn't like the most passive opening from him, but it was still with 3 command centers. So maybe even brings more pressure early in the game too. Just get a bit of momentum there and then go from that point on. Time's back in his chair. So we should just be a few moments before going into the game. Definitely feels like... not definitely feels like, but it definitely is make or break time here for Time. We mentioned other games going on. The last update I had was that Innovation, at the very least, did take the first map against Bunny, which officially eliminates Bunny from contention in this group. That means that Time at this point needs to win against Serral and hope that Bunny comes back against Innovation.
I think Innovation actually has 2-0'd Bunny.
Oh, there you go. You got the better info than me, ZG. You got all the results. Well, in that case, unfortunately, Time may not know this, but his time in this group has pretty much come to a close.
Yeah, that's always unfortunate. You just gotta sit there and kind of just hope other things pan out while you're also trying to make sure that this game pans out well for you. But this was one of those situations where it was, half out of his control. And unfortunately, it went not his way. But he still can prove to the world that he could take down Serral. That would still be something that we'd be talking about up until next Katowice, wouldn't it? So I'd love to see this guy still bring it back. In the top left of Lightshade for Team Kaiser Gaming, he is Time.
And of course, in the bottom right-hand side, the red Zerg player from NC Sports, up 1-0, is Serral.
His map choice here. Let's see if he has any particular plan or has just found success on it. People were talking about, what map was going to be the least chosen in Katowice, and I was like, well, it's not a very difficult answer. Submarine remains the map least chosen, but
I've been telling us this all year, Zombie Grub. I don't know about you, but that is not a question to me.
I absolutely love your intros for the DreamHack when you have to talk about the map pool, as if we don't talk about it all the time, every day, as if the StarCraft players don't know it. I think you really do well with that, Wardy.
It's very easy when you've got a map like Submarine to hate on, to be fair. It really drives the content for the map pool segment,
Yes, yeah. It also makes all the other maps just look so much more beautiful and varied. It's like the ugly bridesmaid, that you bring just because she's ugly. No, I'm just kidding. But no, it's not going to be a map too commonly chosen, but it will inevitably find its way into a map pool as we move into a bracket stage. We'll also talk about more best of fives, for instance, and then inevitably a finals on Sunday where it could go to every single map of the map pool. But that's just some filler talk, to be honest. We do have some normal stuff here. No very quick plans from either party. As Time goes for a 1-Rax expand, and Serral just goes for his hatchery.
Wow. Over the 4 days now of competition, Submarine played 3 times. Twice in TVT and once in BVT.
Yeah, that's context, guys, is that the first day alone had 20 games. So
that's out of 150 maps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yikes.
Oof, man.
For Submarine.
I just feel like I don't have the map maker right now, but I feel like the map maker just occasionally just like takes map submarine in his arms, you know, and it's just like there. I love you, beautiful child. No one else does though.
Oh, Time loses a Reaper early. This is a huge deal, losing the Reaper this early in the game, because you lose so much scouting information, right? What stops Serral just dropping a Roach Roar and going for a Roach attack? Like, yeah, it may not be the best time, he may not have set up for it, but Time can't confirm that he isn't doing that, right? So it's just that it's one of those things you can do to punish this sometimes, especially a map short rush distance like Lightshade. It's not the map you want to lose your Reaper on, that's for sure. 3cc early in the game as well. He'd be susceptible to something like that, but Serral... Oh, there it is.
Look at that, big brain warning. Yeah, I think there is a lot of potential there. In a similar fashion, though, similar vein, Time could also be like, okay, well, clearly Serral could do something, and I'm not going to know about it. So why don't I go ahead and make this, this quick 3cc, quick barracks production into a Banshee build? Exactly what he's doing, right? So maybe this was supposed to be as greedy as possible if he could get consistent scouting. Now it turns into a little less greedy, but a lot more safe, just by swapping to a safety Banshee. So not even bothering to get Cloak on it. That is purely for any potential Roach openers. Doesn't fully guarantee your defense. Sometimes, if the Banshee's not scouting this fast enough, if she's not in the middle of the map, for instance, Roaches can still do damage. But it is a fantastic maneuver to change up once you've known that you could be facing something dangerous.
Yeah, what I worry about for Time is that Serral just makes, these Roaches, maybe like a round or two of Lings, and then he's going to be droning already. So that even if the Banshee defends this, Serral's already going to be on like 50-ish drones, while Time is still sitting on 30 or so, because he's all out on the defense. So let's see. Roach is going to move around the bottom side as well, so they're going to go kind of the slightly longer path just to try and avoid being seen. And the Banshee through the top side, Zombie Grub, everything is going wrong for Time. There is no way he sees any of this before Roaches are knocking on the front doorstep with their friends, the Ravagers, and their corrosive biles.
It's amazing how different the Banshee going to the south would have made this game. He knows it. Time knows that the game is pretty much over. He's got no wall in the natural, so he just has to pull the SCVs and try and buy more time for the Banshee to come back. He's already swapped off the starports, so it's not like he can emergency build a second Banshee. No bunkers are here, just a handful of Marines and the Hellions, but the Roaches and Ravagers are already knocking on that front door. They actually are being burnt to a crisp as they don't go for the supply depot, but they're taking out the units. The command center in the natural is not mining. The Banshee has returned. She can deal with the Ravagers, but she can't deal with the Lings, and there's only 2 Hellions left over, but my goodness, that supply depot is holding that line. Hold the door. Jeez, Time. I actually thought he was a goner, and he's managed to buy himself another minute in this game or two.
He does buy himself another minute or two in this game, but it comes back to what I was saying, right? You can't really afford to take any damage here because Serral is already droning. I said maybe he'll come out like 50 versus 30. So how about 60 versus 40, right? Okay, he's got a couple of Evo chambers or something to build, something that's taking up some of his workers right now, but the idea is that is not the time to drop all of your fresh mules. 3 of them go down. Serral just says, you know what, I don't care about the mules, the army's here. We're going to go for that instead, and he's going to go for it.
Gosh, that's more damage that Time could not take. He is going to finally clear things up. But yeah, you pointed out the biggest problem. Serral up 28 workers, could easily go up to more. His layer's on the way, his upgrades have started. Time at least has his combat shields on the way. When comebacks happen from this position, it is basically entirely off of medevac drops doing very well. And we actually haven't seen a comeback like that happen for quite some time. I know people refer to like a Ryung game, like 6-7 years ago or something like that. But that is a chance that Time's going to have to take, just really solid defense at home. And drops, I would say, is the best way to execute this. You could also try and desperately do still a tank push through the middle, which might be his plan here. So still don't see any upgrades. Okay, finally starts 1-1, but still, you could try and hope to catch them as they're being overly greedy, too confident in their position. But I can't see Serral losing in either situation, actually.
Yeah, it's really tough to imagine what goes so wrong here for Serral. The upgrade lead, the Bane speed on the way, Hydrogen on the way too. He's just off to such a strong economy, right? And it might not be showing right now in armies because, okay, he gave him a bit of army to make this attack happen, etc. And he did lose out on everything in his attack. But there's going to become a point where we're going to be like, wait a second. Where is Serral's forces? Where are Time's forces? Because Serral will just have so much now. If Time can hit right now, this would be the weakest point of Serral, right? He's not quite got bailing speed. He's not quite set up with that mega economy turned into units just yet. This is maybe Time's best chance. He counts as a fourth, but guess what? The third isn't mining, so he's still in trouble.
Yeah, he's still in trouble, but this is one of those spikes that he has to work with. He was going to defend and drop until he could max out. A very long-term plan, all about turtling. Or he can try and do an attack, hoping to find Serral a little under-defended, and he did. He did find him under-defended. That fourth base cancel, at least something that happened while he also saves his army. But, we're talking about, like, well, at least this and at least that and, maybe this. And I can almost guarantee that Time's also thinking about that. Like, well, if this works and it has about a 10% chance to work, then maybe that lets me, claw my way in. But he knows that he is in a very desperate scenario and he's got to choose one plan and really, like, execute it as strong as it's ever done. So the drop so far, at least living, but being defended now that Serral has that bailing speed.
Yeah, it really is just like everything's getting better for Serral, right? Bane speed is done, the creep is progressing, he gets toward 4 bases. That was the one thing he's been held off from, so yeah, I know I hate to be a Debbie Downer, but it really is just Time's game. Not really looking strong, don't get me wrong. I'm sure you can maybe find a position, find a way back into this. It's just you're playing Serral. Like, to do that is so difficult when you're even in the game, never mind behind. Beautiful run by here. Ling Bane gonna come through. SCVs are dropping dead. The tank goes down. Oh, now he lost even more SCVs. The Lings maybe could have gone for the fight on the natural, but they just back away, keep themselves alive, maybe even morph in more Balins for later.
I was really worried that Command Center was gonna go down, man. I was like down to like 1 health bar with the SCVs to get to repairing it. He's got the 3CC still working. Gonna lose a tank on the front lines, but still has 2 more to go. A decent enough bio ball. Time still has that slight army supply lead. So he's trying his best to work with the typical TDZ pacing. Maybe just a bit of a worse position than he would really want. And Serral, well, if he executes this, if he pushes this back, no problem. That's when it's really concerning. Maybe Time can do something, but not with an economy, as he once again loses 14 SCVs. It's all up to the army to do something in return. So far, not finding anything.
Hydra's about to have the upgrades, plus 2 carapaces almost in the game. It's down to an army that is not meant to win this fight at all. Okay, the position is good, but Serral knows he can trade because he's got the money to rebuild afterwards. The tanks are starting to go down. The Hydras move on in. Time's force in the upper right is taken down without a hitch, and some units are going to come in from the left side, and the Hydra's exposed momentarily, but Serral has more Banelings in waiting, and they are here to help him fight. If he has to give up this base, so what? He's got the base on the bottom side. He knows Time's economy is shattered from the earlier run-bys. He can give up a base, he's fine with that. He's even sending one more run by to that third base all over again.
Really, the only hope for Time was that Serral did not have backup Banelings, that he did throw everything at that one attack and was unable to clean it up. But Serral always having some Banelings, making sure that he can utilize that creep spread. Even if it means losing his base, he is still going to win the game. Time trying to play, both like a very risky game, but also safe, like just pulls back, realizing he can't find much more success. But it's hard to call this ever safe. It's like, yeah, you probably should have picked up your units and gone home. And okay, that does make sense, but you're also now down still in economy. And your army also is no longer better than Serral's. So what do you got to work with? The upgrades are done. So I guess better is actually not quite true. Time's army is still better, but it's just smaller than Serral's now, as opposed to the last few engagements. And Serral has been setting up a potential run-by or surround as Time has dug himself really deep onto creep. This is his last chance.
I like that Serral just brings everything back home. He knows he's already done the economic damage. He doesn't need to go trade out bases once again. He just needs to win this fight, and if he does that, he's going to win this game. It's not an easy fight, and the tanks do a lot of damage as Serral runs in. But now, where are the tanks for the next fight, right? Serral's rebuilding, and Time is sat here like, well, I can get one more tank out, maybe. That's pretty much his limit. He is really just all in, hoping this 3-base attack can work out some way, somehow, but Serral will just say no, as he's going to push this back. I mean, yeah, you're killing off these Balins, that's great, but the Hydras have +1 missiles, so they're actually just shredding through units as well. Time, he knows it. Everything he's trying to get back in this is unfortunately just being thwarted by Serral.
Yeah, every attack felt like it was supposed to find someone being a little too overconfident, or an attack that was supposed to be a part of like a normal game where he had not taken a bunch of damage. And every time it was actually, yes, Serral's totally fine. Serral's ready to defend. Serral's ready to make the wise decisions to make sure that he wins this game. Time, not very happy about how this went down. Leaning back on his chair, will be probably GGing as soon as Serral's army appears, or before that actually. He taps out, giving Serral the 2-0 and telling him, go, champion. Time and ever